The blade went through his heart. Again. Steel punched through ribs, tore muscle, shattered bone, and burst from his back in a spray of blood and steam. She screamed as she drove it in deeper. "Why don't you die, human?" His body twitched. Blood spilled across the black obsidian floor. For a moment, there was only the sound of her ragged breathing and the distant roar of war outside the fortress. Then he coughed. Blood bubbled from his lips. And he smiled. "Bad habit," he wheezed. 1. The immortal mistake. They called him Riven. Once. Before the gods broke him. Before death gave up. Before the world learned that some mistakes don't stay buried. Riven had been a soldier in a forgotten war between dying gods and rising monsters. A regular man with a regular sword who died screaming on a battlefield no one even remembered anymore. But death didn't take him. The gods needed a lock for their broken gate between realities. So they used his soul as the key. He resurrected 3 days later. Immortal. Unkillable. And permanently alone. For centuries, he wandered through wars, plagues, empires, and extinctions, outliving everyone who ever dared to care about him. Until he met her. 2. The Blade Queen. Her name was Valeth. Demon-born. Warlord. Queen of a burning species that conquered worlds through steel and terror. She stood 8 feet tall, armored in living black metal. Her silver eyes burned with eternal fury. Her blade, Starcleaver, had slain kings, monsters, and gods alike. No one had ever survived her strike. Until Riven. The first time she stabbed him, she laughed as his body collapsed. The second time, she frowned. The third time, she screamed. 3. The battle that never ends. They fought across continents. She dismembered him, crushed him, burned him. He always came back. Slowly at first, then faster. Each time his body reformed, death tried harder to claim him. Each time it failed. Valeth didn't understand fear. Until Riven stood up after she decapitated him. Blood pouring from a headless stump. Still walking. Still reaching for her. Her hands trembled for the first time in 10,000 years. "What are you?" she whispered. He picked up his own severed head. Slid it back into place. "Very tired," he said. 4. Capture. She eventually stopped killing him. Not because she couldn't, but because she couldn't stop. Chains forged from gravity cores and demon sigils wrapped his body. He was sealed in the heart of her fortress, strapped to a floating slab of void metal. She visited him between wars. Sometimes with questions. Sometimes with rage. Sometimes with the blade. "Die," she would command. "I'd love to," he replied. And she would stab him again. 5. The night she broke. The war outside lasted 7 years. Her armies were losing. For the first time in her existence, Valeth was being pushed back. That night, she stood before Riven trembling with fury. "My people are dying," she said. "So did mine," he replied quietly. She drove the blade into his stomach. "Why won't you scream anymore?" Because screaming never saved anyone. She left the blade inside him. Walked away shaking. For the first time. She didn't pull it back out. 6. The monster who would not be a weapon. Days passed. Riven remained impaled. He could feel everything. Every nerve. Every burn. Every slow regeneration sealing around the blade. Valeth returned with blood on her armor. "You could end this war," she said. "You cannot die. My soldiers can. So you want to throw me at your enemy until they give up?" She hesitated. "Yes." Riven looked at her gently. "That's what the gods did to me." Silence. Her grip on the blade loosened. 7. The night the queen cried. The enemy breached the outer walls. Valeth's generals begged her to unleash Riven like a divine curse. She stood between them and his prison chamber. "No," she said. Her generals stared in disbelief. "He is not a weapon," she continued. "He is what happens when the universe runs out of mercy." They called her weak. They attacked. She killed them all herself. Then she returned to Riven. Removed the blade. Slowly, carefully. "I don't want to use you," she whispered. "Then don't," he replied. "Sit with me instead." And for the first time in her immortal life, she did. And she wept. 8. The Siege of the Final Gate. When the enemy stormed the throne chamber, they expected a raging demon queen. Instead, they found her standing beside a chained immortal. Vaylith raised her blade. "You want him," she screamed. "Then come earn him." They came. Riven broke free of his chains. Not because they failed, but because he chose to fight. He didn't fight like a god. He fought like a man who refused to let anyone else die for him. They cut him down 1,000 times. And he stood up 1,001. Vaylith fought beside him, not above him. Not using him. With him. 9. The Price of Forever. When the war finally ended, the world was ruined. Oceans boiled. Skies burned. Only 2 figures remained standing atop the wreckage of an extinct army. Vaylith dropped her blade. "I don't know how to live without war," she admitted. Riven looked at his immortal hands. "I don't know how to live with time." She turned to him. "Then suffer it with me." 10. The Gods return. The sky split. The old gods emerged from their wound in reality, drawn by Riven's unbroken existence. "Key," they thundered. "You will seal the gate again." Vaylith stepped in front of him. "No." The gods laughed. "You cannot kill us." Riven walked forward. "I can't kill much of anything permanently," he said. "But I can suffer longer than you." He stepped into the gate, pulled the gods with him, and slammed it shut from inside. 11. The first death that stayed. The explosion of silence that followed was absolute. When the dust settled, Riven did not return. Vaylith fell to her knees. For the first time, death finally kept him. 12. Epilogue. Bad Habits. Years later, in a quiet rebuilt world, a lone wanderer with silver eyes guarded a small shrine. On its stone was carved, "Here lies the man who couldn't die until he chose to." Sometimes, at night, Vaylith would whisper to the empty air, "Why don't you die, human?" And in her memory, she would hear his voice one last time. Bad habit.